The M64 is unfinished. But to be fair, so was the Analog 3D when it launched. Still kinda is. I'm not saying the M64 isn't good. I'm saying your brand new console shouldn't have a 3-phase roadmap of features that should have just been here at launch. There are a few things that are coming soon that genuinely harm the experience because they aren't here yet. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's start at the beginning with my first impressions. During my unboxing and initial setup on the second channel, Jake64, I was mostly happy. I think it's a little silly that this doesn't come with an HDMI cable, but to be fair, I never included one with my modded N64s, retroingmaster.com, while supplies last, since this is the last run of them, because of these very specific consoles. But I was very happy to see that Wi-Fi updates were here on day one. Something that Analog is still yet to add to the 3D, even though it says it right here on the top of the console. Wi-Fi. It's very convenient once you've added your Wi-Fi credentials to the system, and Mod Retro was very considerate to give me enough time to fix this Game Boy while it updated. Jokes aside, this is a bit of a nitpick, but Jiminy Christmas, how long does it take to update an N64? How big can an N64 update file possibly be? The other thing that I was happy to find on here that the 3D doesn't do is it actually supports my cheap knockoff flash cart. Sometimes games will struggle to load from the flash cart, so it's not perfect, but at least it can work 80% of the time. You could argue that it's a problem with the flash cart and not the M64, but I never had issues with it on a real N64, though I can't hit the really satisfying eject button on a real console. Sucker launches out of there. Oh, gosh. Speaking of buttons, there is a very garish knob where you'd normally find a reset button. You can press in the knob like a button, but it will not work as a reset button. At least I haven't been able to figure out how to actually reset the console with it yet. You can do it within the menu, and you can fully control the menu with just this knob, but I would not call navigating the menu using the knob a pleasant experience. Thankfully, you can just use your controller to navigate the menu. But I would love if you could just quick press, double tap, long press something with this button to just reset the console. I was also disappointed to find that the NSO N64 controller is not supported without something like a blue retro adapter. Yes, the Analog 3D did not support it either when it first launched, but it does now. And I just don't understand why this isn't working at launch, since I couldn't find anywhere if they were actually planning to support it natively with the built-in Bluetooth. I decided to just build my own blue retro adapter since I had the parts lying around. I actually made a video on the second channel, Jake64, showing off how exactly I did this. I'll link it below the like button. It was pretty cool. This adapter will add a few frames of delay, but it's really hard to notice when this console already has significant video output delay. This is the #1 reason why I titled the video this way. Normally, I don't notice input lag. Like, wired and wireless controllers feel identical to me 99% of the time. And I'll admit, it took me a while to figure this out. I played an hour or so of Mario Kart 64 and tried a few other games for a little bit day one. I wanted to play Yoshi's Story because I'd never tried it before and figured it would be an easy game to run through for testing. I was struggling a bit, but I just assumed it was harder because that's just how games were back in the day. Then I hit page 3 and was getting ridiculously frustrated trying to jump around on these stupid dragon things before rage quitting. After that, I played a few minutes of Conker's Bad Fur Day, but I was struggling with that too because I just kept falling off the edges. But I just kind of figured that was because older platformers didn't always have your characters stop on a dime because of forward momentum, like a lot of Super Mario games. After that, I shut it down for the night. Then the next day, I figured I should probably play some Analog 3D because I haven't played it in a while and I need to compare the two. I decided to give Yoshi's Story another shot, and that's when it hit me. I wasn't bad at the game. The game wasn't very hard at all. The lack of a low latency mode was just making my timing with everything horrible. And before you go commenting, turn game mode on, use a wired controller, or it's your capture card. Game mode was on the whole time. I was forced to use my wired original N64 controller because I hadn't made the adapter yet. And I tried it without my capture card. I was able to make it to the last level of Yoshi's Story before I even lost a life, when I played on my analog 3D. In fact, I even used a wireless controller on it, and the eels and escalators level was no sweat. I did struggle on the last page because it was a bit harder than the rest, but I had save states to help me there, so that was nice. I actually had so much more fun on the 3D because I wasn't fighting the latency. But that's just the biggest issue that I've had with Mod Retro 64. Mario Kart, specifically playing 2-player versus, runs at nearly 2 times the speed. It's fine playing solo Grand Prix, but if you want to play with your friends, DK Jungle Parkway is going to feel faster than 200cc Rainbow Road. And again, before you say anything, it's the same with or without an overclock, and I tried it on the flash cart and on an original authentic cartridge. Though it did also do this on the A3D with overclocking, but forcing original hardware fixed it. And obviously, it was normal on original hardware. It didn't happen on every map, but this was supposed to be 100cc on DK's Jungle Parkway. Look, I'm not trashing on it just because Palmer Luckey's the CEO. I really don't care. The more I play it, the more I feel like a beta tester. Yes, the Analog 3D was missing plenty of features when it launched. It still is. But I genuinely don't see a reason why Mod Retro had to launch it in this state. I don't understand why companies push out a product that's clearly not ready with a plan to add several features in future updates before they even launch the product. It's a terrible business strategy that needs to be called out. I'm not saying that updates or adding features is a bad thing, but basic features like auto low latency and full game compatibility shouldn't be something we have to wait for. And I'm not saying it was okay for Analog to do it. I called them out for their crappy practices in their review too. There are no excuses because this is a clone of a 30-year-old console. And it's not like you're racing to beat your competitors to the market. This could have launched in the holiday season with potentially the entire roadmap they have now completed. And this review would have been so much more positive. Though I would like to give credit where credit's due. I do really like that Mod Retro is supporting 64 game developers, just like they did with Game Boy games and the Chromatic. None of the new games really interested me, but I love seeing more new retro games being released. And I love that a lot of the work will be open source in the future, as well as this being open to use other cores. Meaning we should see the ability to play NES, SNES, Genesis, Game Boy, and even more on the M64 in the future. I was really hoping that Analog was going to do that with a 3D, but they straight up said no. I think that the Pro Controller is pretty cool. I didn't get one because I can't justify spending $90 on a Pro Controller for this system. I don't like or play the N64 that much, though I've seen nothing but great things about it. But before we talk pricing, let's get some of the minor details and nitpicks out of the way. Like I said, I wish there was an actual reset button, because even though I can turn this off and reset it from the menu feels super clunky to me. It's much better to navigate with a controller, but having to go through multiple tabs to adjust the overclock is a bit annoying. And I understand that it has to reboot when changing the overclock, but I feel like an auto setting as well as a force original hardware setting would be really nice to have, especially since I don't know which games work best on which overclock setting. Another A3D feature that I would love to have here is turning it on via the controller. Maybe you can do this with the Pro Controller, but I can do this with my NSO N64 controller on the Analog 3D, and it'd be nice if many different controllers could do that with the M64. The latest horizontal upscaling update is nice and all, but I really didn't notice enough of a difference to care. I mean, if you found a way to do a better internal upscale, that would be awesome, but I don't think this console can handle it. Mainly because the M64 already gets crazy hot. Mod Retro touts a silent, fanless design that feels like it was only done because the A3D has active cooling. Yes, you can hear the fan for like 2 seconds on boot, but I never hear it during gameplay. It's not like the jet engine I call a PS3 that I have to turn up the TV volume just to overpower the fan noise. It may fall under acceptable temperatures for the hardware, but active cooling would keep it cooler, thus expanding the life of the chips that run the dang thing. Yes, this hardware was designed to avoid parts with limited lifespans, but fans are simple enough for anybody to replace. And yes, the original N64 didn't have a fan, but the heatsink was massive, and the M64 runs at a higher clock speed than the original. But again, it's supposedly running below the max temperature for the hardware, so count this as a nitpick. It's just not the way I would have designed this. But let's finally talk pricing. I got the console for $200 plus shipping because I signed up for the launch emails day one. But even at the regular pricing of $230, it's cheaper than the Analog 3D at $270. At this moment in time, the A3D feels like a more refined product, but both are still incomplete. Assuming both products end up fulfilling all of their promises, they are both solid choices to me. Right now, I'm picking the A3D, but 6 months to a year from now, it's anybody's game. It's really going to come down to which company cares more about their customers. I'll also mention that it's cool to see that Mod Retro has a few different colors at launch instead of making them limited editions. Though I will point out that there are still a couple of 3Ds in purple and glacier on Analog's website right now. And even though this is very subjective, I think this design is butt ugly. It's better looking in person compared to the marketing, in my opinion, but I respect trying to go for the funky 90s aesthetic, even if it doesn't stick the landing for me. Initially, I wanted this video to be more of a head-to-head comparison, but the M64 just isn't ready to step in the ring. Maybe once both the consoles feel more complete, I can revisit them for a real comparison video. So get subscribed to see that when it comes out in the distant future. At the end of the day, the M64 is still a huge step up from original hardware, even when it's modded. But since the A3D beat it to market, it's just not as exciting to see overclocking and stuff we've already had for months in another very similar console. I do really hope that it gets better from here. Competition is great, but only time will tell just how great. It'd be a lot more exciting if I cared more for the N64. But that's about it for me. So like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later, guys. You forgot to talk about the light bar. That's because I don't give a shit.